Welcome to the June Wellness Hour. In this case, it's more like 90 minutes. The topic will be designing homes for everybody, inclusive living spaces for all ages and abilities. I'm sure most of you know our presenter today, Jane Nemke, who is an active participant in both the Women on Wellness group and this Wellness Hour community. I'm excited about what she's going to share with us today for two reasons. She's going to explain a flexible approach to designing or modifying our homes, which is very important. FSHD manifests itself so differently in each individual that a flexible approach to dealing with it is essential. There is no one size fits all. I admire Jane for the fact that she has not passively accepted her diagnosis and the progressive nature of this condition, but has proactively taken charge of her life and prepared herself for the inevitable future. There's a lot we can learn from her willingness to do that. Before I turn the controls over to Jane, I want you to understand this will be a highly interactive session. This also explains the length of time that we have set aside for this session. Jane invites you to ask questions during her presentation, and I'll be watching. So if you can't find the hand raised, just put your hand up in your little screen, and I'll do my best to capture that you have a question, or put something in the chat, and we'll be monitoring the chat as well. Um, she is making use of visuals that will help you clearly understand what she's talking about. So when you have a question as we go, please raise your hand and we will get to you. Thank you. And without further ado, I'm sorry, there is further ado. If you could mute yourself, because they're going to get a lot of background. I know in my house, quite often we get background, and I'm not even aware of it. So if we can keep that background to a minimum. And before we do the ado again, Rick, please.
Question for Jane. First of all, before you get started, do you live alone?
Yes, I do.
Do you
Yes, I
have an
do.
aide?
No, I
Okay.
I I live, it's a long story, but I'm now living in what is classified as an independent living facility. But I would have access to an aide if I needed one. There's 24/7 emergency access. That's why really I'm living here. And I know that down the road I will need help, but right now I am living independently and completely alone. Okay.
Excellent
Good
question.
question. Thank you.
All right, please give a warm welcome to our own Jane Nemke. Jane, please take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. And thank you, everybody that's dialed into today's discussion. And as Renee said, I want this to be interactive. So as I'm talking about something, if it doesn't make sense, or you want to get into more detail, or you want to add how you solved a problem, please, please, please do, because we've got plenty of time to do that. Okay. So I'd like to begin a couple of things, giving you a little bit of background on how I discovered universal design. That's really what I'm going to be talking about today. And then I will get into showing you, once I learned about universal design, how I applied it in my own condo to deal with my circumstance. So just to give you some history, I was diagnosed with FSH muscular dystrophy at 26 and was very fortunate to have a fairly mobile life. I worked for 35 years, but about 10 years ago, I realized, and it really was prompted by a fall. And honestly, I haven't fallen since. But 10 years ago, I had a fall that caused me to have the aha moment of saying, you know what? I need to start getting myself ready for a wheelchair because that's where I'm headed. And that got me future thinking. Okay. And I started asking myself questions like, what do I want? And I obviously I wanted safety, but I really also wanted beauty. Some of you know that I'm certified in color, and I wanted a space that was going to be enabling. And I really didn't want a space that screamed, a disabled person lives here. I just really wanted it to, like I said, enable me to function as normally as possible. Okay. And that's when I had the gift of running into a contractor in Madison who was specialized in universal design. and he was a remodeler. And with his help and another organization in town, I began to learn about what universal design is, and I went, aha, that's what I want. So, what is universal design? Before I get into showing you, I want to give you just a tidbit of a background on how it all got started. A guy by the name of Ron Mays coined the term universal design back in the 1980s. And to give you his story, at about 9 years old, he was stricken with polio. And from then on, he was wheelchair bound. And he went on to North Carolina State University's College of Design. He graduated with a design degree. He spent his first 4 years as an architect. And then he decided his passion was accessible housing. And so he really started focusing on design for accessible housing. He developed what was called the Center for Accessible Housing. It later got renamed to the Center for Universal Design. And in all his years of experience, exposure, and design, he came up with 7 principles of universal design, which are pretty much accepted nationally as the kind of the gold standard of what encompasses universal design. Now, I kind of reworded them here, so you're getting them in Jane speak, which is short and simple, okay? If you go online and you type in universal design, you can get the detailed multi-paragraph version, okay? But the simple version, the seven principles, the design appeals to all users. That was really important to me. I did not want something that looked institutional, and to say it appeals to all users or to most users was important. Flexible, right? It's adaptable as the household changes. Simple and intuitive, and able to be seen and understood. You shouldn't have to have a rocket science degree to figure out what's going on, right? It needs to be low physical effort, obviously safe, and functioning from a wheelchair. There has to be enough room to turn around. So I want to take a minute to just give you a very quick example of the difference between accessible and universal. And by the way, if it's accessible, and it wouldn't, if it is accessible, it's also universal, right? Well, wait, let me reverse that. If it's universal, it's also accessible, but accessible may not necessarily be universal. So let me explain what I'm talking about there. So this would be a perfect example of an accessible solution to an entry, right? You've got steps here, you add a ramp in front of it. That's an accessible entry to a home, not necessarily qualifying as universal. And, you know, sad as it is, the reality is in most residential settings, if you have a ramp in front of your home, it will decrease the ability to sell that home rather than increase it. We've had cases talking with realtors where there were ramps in front of the home. They got no interest in the home until they took the ramp down, and then they were able to sell the home. So sadly, that is the reality. So how do you solve that problem? How do we create spaces that are beautiful and accessible and appeal to everybody and nobody finds objectionable? That is universal design, and this home is a perfect example of that. Now, this home has 2 steps right here. But they also have this incredible sidewalk with a very gradual ramping and fabulous landscaping, and it looks gorgeous and welcoming to everybody, and it doesn't scream at you disability, right? It says ability, it says welcome, it says enabling everyone. Okay, so that's the difference. This home would also be considered universal because there's no there's no step entry. But the reason I put that home in the picture is because it's an example, and we can talk more about this later, but it's an example of an accessory dwelling unit. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, an ADU, but a lot of cities are now beginning to handle the problem of affordable accessible housing by allowing ADUs on a single property. So in other words, you might have this big home on your property, and now either you or a family member can't navigate in that home anymore. Well, cities are rezoning to allow an accessory dwelling unit on the same property, sharing that same lot. And usually the unit has to be less than 1,000 square feet, but they're super cool properties in that they're simple little homes, very easily accessible, and they incorporate all kinds of wonderful creative design elements that conserve space and make the home usable. So, again, everything I'm going to be talking about here costs money. I realize that. But this might be a way to say, for instance, decide to rent out your existing home and build a small accessible or accessory dwelling unit that's far more affordable, and then use your big home that you can no longer navigate as an income property. Here's another solution to steps that could be inside a garage or inside a home. There's a company called Flex or Furniflex, Furniflex, Furniflex. So if you want to look it up online, they have, to me, what seems like a gazillion different creative ways of using space. But here's their solution to steps. Pretty cool, huh?
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing the shared screen.
Oh, you're not.
Should I be doing something to see that?
You're
No, it
not
should.
seeing the video? Are you not seeing my slides?
No, is everybody else seeing them? It seems like
Yes,
Renee
Yes,
is.
I can see
yes,
them.
Did everyone else see the slide? Did,
Yes.
I
Huh.
did.
I'm going to
What?
hit it
How
Yeah,
do
I
one
you
saw
more.
the
walk me out
slide
of
and I
it?
saw the video.
You saw the video. Okay.
So
Okay,
I got to do something.
I'm going to run the video one more time
Let
where
me see.
the stairs collapses and it turns into a lift.
Huh.
So, what do you see, Rick? Do you see Hollywood Squares?
Hollywood Squares. I'm going through the variety of things to
Okay,
see, but
okay,
I'm still not coming up with the shared screen.
okay. So, try side by side gallery.
Well, there's gallery and dynamic gallery.
Okay, you don't have the side
Anyway,
by side gallery.
no.
Okay.
Anyway,
Anybody?
I'll listen very closely.
You'll listen. Okay. And you know what? I'll tell you what, Rick. We'll figure something out and I'll sit with you one-on-one afterwards, okay? We'll make a
One on
date.
one.
We'll
Cool.
make a date so that I share my slides with you, okay?
I'm taking
Okay.
notes anyway.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, as now here we go. To be continued. Okay, so now I'm going to start applying universal design to my own condo. And I'll talk about before and after and what I did. And again, the solutions here are things that worked for me. And as Renee was saying early on, we're all unique individuals. Something that may work for me may not work for you, but hopefully it might trigger an idea for something you can explore. And the primary advice I would give is in your own community, search out people who have an understanding of universal design. There's an organization called NARI, N-A-R-I, which stands for the National Association of Remodeling Industry. And they have a list of remodelers all around the country that are well versed in universal design. So that would be the bit of advice. Or good old Mr. Google search is always a great way to find things too, okay? So now back to my apartment. This is the remodeled version. But what I wanted to point out here, this entry door that you see here, when you walked in this door, before the apartment was remodeled, right here, all along here was a wall and a large closet. And that's all you basically saw when you walked in the door, was mainly a closet and a wall. And this wall here in the kitchen is in effect the back side of that entry wall you walked into. So if this makes sense, this is before I had this little kitchen, this back wall, and the other side of this back wall was where the entry closet was. So when you walked in the door, you didn't see very much more than a big closet door, right? This is what you now saw after I entirely removed the wall and the closet that was at the entry. So now, instead of having to walk all the way around to get into the kitchen, you just took a few steps and boom, right here, you walked in the door and the kitchen was right there. Okay, couple of things. So in other words, before you would not have seen any of this. All you would have seen was basically this wall here, and everything else would have been blocked off. So by removing that one small wall, it dramatically opened up the entire unit. But the other thing I'd point out is the flooring throughout the entire condo was ripped out, and we put in the same flooring. I put in it's an engineered bamboo, which was not super slippery, right? And it was very durable, and that were
Jane,
the reasons I chose it. Yep.
Jane, we've got a question. Robin has a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Yes.
Go right ahead, Robin.
Got to unmute myself. Are the sink and the fixtures all at a height where you can reach them from your wheelchair?
Yes, they were. And in an ideal world, if I had done it over again, I would have had a cutout under the sink. But part of what I
Oh,
did to compensate for that is I made the faucet touch sensitive. So I could turn the faucet
okay.
on by touching it anywhere, and that I didn't have to reach all the way back here. But yeah, the sink was at a height that I could easily access.
Thank you.
Okay. Now to get into more detail, you saw on the other slide where that wall was ripped out, that had been cabinets. So I gave up that whole wall of cabinets, but I replaced all cabinets, almost all cabinets, with drawers. And so even though it looked like I had less space, I actually had more storage space than I had before by converting to drawers instead of cabinets. So a couple of other things that I did, got rid of one of the ovens and bought a combination convection microwave oven. And there's so many cool appliances out there nowadays that can do amazing things. And by eliminating one oven, I now had an accessible oven that was, again, both my microwave, and if I wanted to bake a turkey, I could bake a turkey. The other thing was going to an induction cooktop. If you are considering a new cooktop, I would say it's worth your time to at least explore induction. And what induction is a process that uses magnetism in order to heat the food. Now that sounds a little wiggy, but it works phenomenally. It works faster than traditional gas or electric, and it is super clean and easy because the surface, what is the big accessible universal plus of induction? It's that the surface here never gets hot. The heat transfer is happening between the pot and the magnetism right there at that unit. That sounds bizarre, but it works phenomenally. And the only thing you have to do, you have to invest in a set of cookware that can conduct magnetism. But once you do that, your energy bills for cooking will go down and it will cook things faster. So it's something to consider. And why is that universal? As I said, sometimes I'm a klutz. I would drag my hands or an elbow on the surface. I never got burned anymore. And the other thing is it's far easier to clean because if something boils over, it lands on a surface that's not hot, so it doesn't get baked on. So again, those are just some little things that make it a very friendly surface. The other thing we did is I moved the outlets to the front of the cabinet instead of the back wall. So now, not only was it easier for me, but my 6-year-old grandnephew could plug in his devices, without risking leg and limb. So that helped a lot. You'll notice the cabinet, I said I reduced a lot of cabinetry, but I kept this short, narrow, it didn't have much depth, shallow and short cabinet, because I'm one of those people who doesn't like a lot of stuff on my counter. And so this was my hiding place for the coffee pot and the grinder and all the little appliances that I wanted to tuck away. So not only did I have this outlet right here for easy access, I had another outlet put inside the cabinet. And again, was able to tuck away stuff and keep the surface nice and clean. And then the other side here, I got an air fryer that flips up. So once again, super easy to use, and then flipped it up out of the way, and all you saw were these nice clean cabinets. Okay, and I even, I talk about drawers. Big fan of drawers instead of cabinet doors, wherever you can put drawers in. I even got a refrigerator that this drawer, see, it's got 2 drawers. Bottom drawer is freezer, but this drawer is refrigerator. So the refrigerator items I wanted to access the most often were all in a drawer.
We've got a
I
question
loved it.
from Rick.
Yeah, Rick.
Miss Jane.
Is that scooter that you're sitting on one that you only use inside the house and you got a separate one for going outside?
No, this is an old photograph when I first had the unit built. So this unit, I bought it in 2016, anticipating I was going to be in a wheelchair. And it was completed in 2017. So in 2017, I was still using a scooter. I had not transitioned to a wheelchair yet. So I built all of this in anticipation of a wheelchair, but I don't use that at all anymore. I can't transfer, I can't walk. I am strictly wheelchair bound at this point. But, someone took this photo. So a local magazine was interested in universal design, and they came over and they let me steal this photo. They took some photos of some of these universal design ideas and posted it. This was one of them. And this is just an example. I love my dishwasher. It was a drawer dishwasher, Fisher Paykel, and there are different brands available now. But again, so much easier to access, to empty, oh my gosh. So that was something I loved. The other thing, turning on here I've got the fan and the lights and everything else. That was all operated by remote control. So everything was push button.
We have a question now from Ray.
Oh yeah, yes. Hey Ray.
Hey Jane, how are you?
Very good. Good to see you.
Good. I came in late because it doesn't normally start this time. Anyways, is there something that you would have done differently now that you've had some experience in the house?
Well, the one thing I mentioned early on is I should have allowed access at the kitchen sink under the sink. So
Yeah.
let's see if I can go. Oops, let me go previous.
Oh, did I miss the bathroom, or have you
No,
come
no,
on
we
to
haven't
that?
gotten
I'm
there
I'm
yet.
gonna go I'm
Okay.
gonna go there next. I'm actually trying to go backwards here. See, I made the mistake here of not leaving this open. If I were to change something, I would definitely have left space here so that it would be much easier for a wheelchair to access. I was explaining to people I did all this while I was still in a scooter and I still could stand. And there were a couple of things that hindsight's 2020 that I would have done differently from a wheelchair. But
And then
most everything was good. Yep.
we have a question from
Okay.
Seth also.
Okay,
Oh,
Seth.
sorry, I hadn't quite finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm stepping on your
Thank
toes,
you.
Ray.
Yeah, this will only take a second. Jane, your design philosophy is very similar to what we did in our house, but we did actually leave a cutout under the sink and also under our the same kind of inductive cooktop. We did the same
Yes.
thing, but we've got a cutout underneath that as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. All
Sorry to
righty.
sorry to rush you, Ray. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Okay,
Seth.
Seth.
Okay, Jane, I saw the scooter and I saw how you designed the kitchen. I know that you said you can't walk anymore. How's your arm strength with regard to how you set up the kitchen? Does it still work well for you?
Well, I am no longer living in that condo. So the answer is no. It was lovely for about 8 years, but I am now actually in an independent living facility that provides me with 3 meals a day. So I'm no longer cooking. And so there's now another happy older couple who are thoroughly enjoying all these wonderful amenities. They're not in wheelchair, they're simply, older, but they're really appreciating the features.
No, that's wonderful.
So, okay, okay. So thank you.
Next,
And
next we
Robin had a question.
get Rob.
Rob?
Well, more of a comment than question. When we had to replace our stove a couple of years ago, we were really looking at induction stove tops. That's really what we wanted. My wife, however, has a built-in defibrillator pacemaker combination. Absolutely, her doctor said no, cannot have that anywhere near your
You know what,
pacemaker.
Rob? Thank you. Thank you. That's a great, because again, it uses magnetism.
Right,
So if
yes.
you've got any issue with magnetic, you absolutely don't want to use it. So thank you. That's a great comment.
Yep. Just wanted
Okay,
to make
so
sure.
yeah,
Well,
thank you.
maybe not.
Yep, yep, that's a very important consideration. And again, these worked for me and they're not going to work for everyone. So yeah, excellent comment. One of the other things I wanted to point out that the kitchen supplier or contractor did that I thought was a great idea in suggesting this half round be added to the counter. This has served as a fabulous, not only a place to eat, but it became my work surface, my project surface, I mean, it just was so, so wonderful and practical. And the way he made it happen with no legs, right? There's no support legs here, was by using these extra sturdy brackets that held up the piece of granite and solved the problem of legs getting in the way. I had counter height chairs that swiveled, and I think Helen asked the question, gee, how did that work? At the time, I could still stand and transfer, so I was able to not have to move the chair and just swivel the chair out so I could sit down and swivel in. And I like to call it butt height. It was at my height of my bum, so it was very easy to get in and out of. I didn't have to have arms to push off of or lift myself up. And I already mentioned the touch faucet. Okay, the bathroom. To me, if you're limited on where you can focus, this is absolutely the most critical room in the house to focus on for maintaining dignity and independence. And the things that I did, I ended up putting in a tile shower that was a roll-in shower. And if that's not in the budget, I know you can buy complete units. that are roll-in, so there are different options. But I'll go through a couple of the things here and what the thinking was in doing them. You know, the three things that were critical to me were a roll-in shower and space underneath the sink and accessibility to the toilet. Now, I know some people think like the idea of a built-in shower bench, and I would advise against it because a built-in bench really limits your flexibility. And you know, what works one year doesn't work the next. I found that my shower chair on rails was fabulous because I could move it as close to the equipment, the operation as I wanted to, or as far away, and again, maximum flexibility. And people ask, well, how did you access it? What I did is I'd roll my chair right up close to this chair, and I used a 24-inch transfer board, and then I just slid onto the chair, and then the chair slides into the shower. And then I've had people say, well, did you get water spray all over your bathroom floor? And the answer is no, partly because the drainage has a 1-inch incline, right? So the water drains toward the drain. But also I had a plastic shower curtain, and that solves the problem, right? The shower curtain kept the water inside, and I never had a problem. You know, a big issue in a bathroom is grab bars. So obviously you want all your walls reinforced so you can put grab bars wherever you want them. You know, I had a grab bar at the entry, I had a grab bar inside. The post that the shower head was on was also a functioning grab bar. The other thing we did is, you know, usually in a shower, the water hose is connected way up high. Instead, we connected it down here by the you know, the spigot and the operation. Why does that matter? It just gives you an extra 2 feet of hose that you can then use. So like if I were at the point where I needed somebody to be showering me, they could stretch the hose out and stand behind me and still be able to reach. So that was something that was helpful.
Jane, can I interrupt you for just a
Sure.
second? We've got some new people on, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that we're recording this session. We don't normally, but we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to share Jane's intellect in this great presentation. So if you don't want to be seen on the camera, please turn your video camera off. And if you don't want your name to be shown, if you go to the square where your name is, and over in one of the corners there's 3 little dots, click on that dot, and in that litany of list of things to do, one of them is rename, and you can take your name out. I just want to make sure that everybody was aware and had the opportunity to make those changes if they would like. Now,
Right.
Helen, it's your turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the shower because I've got a very small shower, and but it had a flexible handheld hose, but it was too high for me to fit back up, and so our son replaced it. And he's a plumber, so he was able to bring something. It's the shower connection at the top, the handheld thing, it sticks with a magnet, but then he also brought over a piece about like this that's also magnetized. So once the shower is done, I just put the shower head it and it clicks real firmly, and it's really easy to use. I do have somebody helping me with my shower, and it also makes it easier for them because they can reach it. And thankfully, the tap is already, it just is a universal design tap, and it's right at beside the where he's installed this thing that is magnet, and it's stuck to the wall. I don't know quite how, but because we can't, it's an acrylic shower, and he couldn't put anything through the acrylic because then it would have been water in the wall. So yeah, so
Thanks,
there are,
Helen. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I've seen shower head holders on Amazon that do just that. They're like a suction cup or whatever, and you can stick them right on the wall by the controls, and that solves the problem of having to reach. So you've done that. So excellent. Thank you. Okay, some other things in the remodeling of the bathroom. Um, on this little half wall here, I not only had an electrical outlet on this side, I had an electrical outlet on the toilet side because I knew that I wanted to add a lift seat, which is right here, and the top of the lift seat is a bidet. So I wanted an electrical outlet right inside, right by the toilet, and that was very helpful. And I would not be without my lift seat and bidet. They've just really made life a whole lot simpler for me and have allowed me to maintain independence. Obviously, I mentioned open under the sink. In the bathroom, I also put in drawers instead of cabinets. And once again, this little cabinet is there to hide all of the stuff I didn't want setting out, like my electric toothbrush and whatever, toothpaste, etc. One other thing that you might find interesting, and again, I bought this on Amazon, is this swivel open-ended towel bars. I love this because it's so much easier to just slide the towel on when you can swivel out the arm, and then you can position it where you want to. And when I used to be showering, I could swivel the arm around so it was easier to grab the towel from the shower. And then the other thing I was going to mention, this is a little inset of the guest bathroom where the toilet was too low for our friends too. So the solution there, instead of getting a whole new toilet, was just getting this 6-inch pedestal. And so a plumber was able to just install the pedestal, raise the toilet up. Here's a grab bar, and it became a little friendlier for visitors. Now, here's where I'm at now. Somebody was talking about a very small shower. I mentioned that I have given up my lovely condo and I am now renting in a independent living facility. And I have a tiny 36-inch by 36-inch shower. So I had to dramatically reduce the size of my chair, and you can, oops,
I'm gonna mute folks here just
okay.
so that we can keep things. Yeah, thank you.
So what I was going to say is, and by the way, so they had this shower bench, right, that thankfully it flipped up because even though it's a tiny shower, it still was too far away and too low for me to access the controls. And the nice thing about the shower chair is you can lengthen or shorten the legs to exactly the height you want. And I found a shower bench online that was only 36 inches. So I was able to, basically get it almost all the way into the shower, right? And I normally back up right close to the chair, and then I slide on. The thing I want to point out here, and you might say, what's this? I've got a folding stool right in front of the chair, and you're probably thinking, Jane, my gosh, what clutter you have. Well, in my case with the dystrophy, once I get my chair slid in order to shower or wash my hair, I can't raise my arms up above my head. So what I do is I put my feet on this chair so that my knees are way up high, right? I put a washcloth on one of my knees so my elbow doesn't slip around on it. And that's how I access my hair and wash my head by myself, by having that step stool to put my feet on and use it to access my head. Okay, so now some other considerations. Back to the condo. Originally, the laundry room for the condo was accessed through the master bathroom. And this wall right here, which is inside the master closet, was actually originally the the wall of the master bathroom. So what we did is we closed off the entry wall to the entry door to the closet, and it became the back wall of the laundry, and we opened up the what was the back wall of the laundry, and it became the front of the access to the washer and dryer, if that makes sense. So if you can picture it, we never changed the flooring. This is the original flooring from the laundry room. Just ripping out that wall suddenly gave all that, access, and a side-by-side washer or dryer versus one that I couldn't reach.
Hey, Jane, I have a question here for you.
Yeah.
From the chat. Someone wants to know how tall your bench is because they need a bench that's at least 26.5 inches tall. Do you know how tall your bench was?
I think it was a little bit taller than that. I'll tell you what, most of these benches have legs that extend, and you can adjust the size on an inch by inch basis. So if you do your homework and searching, you'll find flexible height. And that was something important to me because the chair had to be as high as my wheelchair so that I could easily slide in and out of the shower without going up or down.
Thank you so much.
Good question. Okay, so now here we are. We're in the revised closet, and I ended up losing an entire wall, right, for clothes. So ended up stacking them on top of the other clothes. And you're probably going to say, well, Jane, you're in a wheelchair. How do you access that second row? We accessed it by installing a motor so that the top row dropped down to meet me. And once again, it was on remote control. And so that solved the problem.
Did someone build that for you, or is that something you were able to get off the shelf?
That is something, oops, let me go back here. That is something I was able, let me go back again. Sorry about that. That was supplied by Tailored Closets. So it's a franchise company, and they had the system, they installed it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, I should point out, somebody else mentioned, I love my shoe tree. This was a little tree with spinners, right? And I had like 20 pair of shoes on it, and I found it on Amazon. So that decluttered my space, and because it spins, made it super easy for me to get at my shoes. Okay, a couple of other things. The closets in the hall, the pantry, obviously had pull-out shelves. The access door to the bedroom suite became a pocket door, and I got rid of the doors entirely on the closet because, when the door was open, it was blocking half the clothes, and I never closed it anyway, and it was a real pain in the neck, and I thought, why do I have this door? And I just eliminated it and never missed it. And in the second bedroom became an office for me, and this is a Murphy bed, so cunningly hidden behind that fake door. And so with company, it became an easy entertainment place, and it had electrical outlets inside and a light inside and places to plug in your computer. So it was kind of a slick thing. And again, I got that from Tailored Living. The same people that did the closet also did the Murphy bed. And then, of course, the fan, the lights, the window coverings, all of that was on remote control. And today, 10 years later, you'd probably use voice commands for all of that.
Oh, yes.
So, the advice I would give you, there really is a ton of information out there now on universal design and home fit and friendly environments that did not exist 10 years ago. So in fact, you can even, if you're not afraid of trying ChatGPT, you can even ask ChatGPT to outline a whole set of universal design ideas. Give it as much information as you can. and it'll come up with a whole list of things you can consider. So again, I'd encourage you to explore, explore, explore. Okay, so my bias for color, I cannot leave a discussion about universal design without talking about not just our physical safety, but talking about emotional safety and creating a comfortable space with universal appeal. So bear with me for those of you who, so any case, one of the things that researchers have told us, and we probably know intuitively, is that we inherit the knowledge of our ancestors, and for thousands of years, human beings first were surrounded by colors of nature. And to this day, we still are the most comfortable, feel the most secure, the most safe when we surround ourselves with colors of nature. Now, I've had friends say to me, but Jane, I have colorful art. I want white walls because I want my art to show up. And I will tell them that your art can show up beautifully on a colored wall, and you will still have, if you surround yourself again with the colors of nature, you can do that and still have beautiful art showing up. But again, this is personal taste. I'm giving you my biases now. Okay, so, here's and in fact, I think more white walls exist than any other color, right? Especially here in the United States. I don't know what's going on in Canada, but Europeans are much more confident and comfortable, it seems, with color. But they've been researched and studied in it for a lot longer than we have here in the States. Okay, so now I'm giving you an example of how might you like to start your day. If you're living in a climate like Wisconsin, in the middle of winter, this might feel wonderfully warm and energetic and welcoming. And I go back to, how do you want to start your day? Here or here? And again, psychologically, it really does make a difference. And color actually impacts psychologically how warm we feel. Studies have been done that can show that we can perceive up to a 4-degree temperature difference by doing nothing more than changing the color on the wall. In other words, the temperature stays exactly the same. We can perceive up to a 4-degree difference just by changing the colors. I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about this because, again, as far as universal design, part of the aesthetics are part of what makes it appealing to everyone and wonderful and vibrant and fitting your emotional needs, not just your physical needs. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with a color wheel, and you've heard about warm colors versus cool colors. I'm going to give you an example of how this can affect the mood and the feel of a room. So now I'm taking green, and I'm taking a yellowed green, which is viewed as a warm green, and I'm going to take a blue green, which obviously is a cool green, apply it to rooms. Okay. Now, the yellow-green room, I would venture to say it adds warmth, it adds life, it adds freshness. It's kind of citrusy, but it definitely has a warmer feel to it than this room, the blue-green. The blue-green, it's cool, calm, restful, ideal for a bedroom. So the guru of color that I studied under, Frank Monkey, used to say, we cannot look at color and remain neutral. There's always a response, oftentimes at a subconscious level. But if you understand that response, you can use it to your advantage and create a space that is even more warm, wonderful, and welcoming than the physical aspects that you're changing. And lastly, I can't end a discussion about universal design without talking about technology, because today, oh my gosh, there is so much smart home technology for accessibility. And it can be voice activated systems and automated controls and fall detection technology. Even in my own apartment, and I mentioned I'm now I'm renting space in an independent living space, but I can no longer reach the buttons to turn this lamp on. I don't do it anymore. I just tell Siri to turn on the living room lamp, and poof, there it is. And I love it. Okay, so in summary, I just want to encourage everybody, think about universal design and think about what do you need to have a future ready home. And also, I'd ask any other questions. So
Can you go
I'll
back to
turn
that other slide, please, Jane? I'm so sorry, that last one.
this one.
Yes, because I think that last statement, it's not the end, rather the beginning of a new chapter. I think that's really important. And we really
Ah,
do need to emphasize that.
Mhm.
Because
thank you.
unfortunately, that's where we first goes. Oh my goodness, now what?
You know,
But
yes, and thank you for acknowledging that, Renee, because I think one of the questions people ask is like, oh, change is so difficult, and why is it so difficult? And they say, well, the reason we resist change, usually it's two reasons. It's either fear or denial, and oftentimes both. And what I have found with changes, once I was willing to embrace what is, the changes generally made my life a whole lot easier. So that would be the encouraging words I would give is, you know, be brave, be courageous, try it. And oftentimes you'll find it simplifies your life or makes it so much better. Okay, we've got more questions. Dan, hi, Dan.
Hi, Jane. Thank you for that. That was very informative and given me some really good ideas. My question is, when you went to renovate your condo, did you have to go through any contractor permitting and HOA headaches to get things done that we need to be aware of?
Yes, the contractor definitely had to go through permitting, standard stuff. But again, that's why I hired a contractor so that he could take care of that. And yes, permitting was part of the process.
And your
I see.
HOA kind of gave you the okay, or did your contractor have to communicate with the HOA?
I did not have any problem whatsoever with the HOA in the particular condo that I was in. I think, when you meet with them and you tell them what you're planning to do and you have something that is reasonable and realistic and is going to enhance the value of the property, generally they're not going to have a problem with it. And again, that's the other thing I talk about universal versus accessible. Universal design generally enhances the value of the property and makes it more available to a much larger audience versus accessible, which can decrease the audience that will want that particular property. So, that's something that is part of the consideration. I did have, significant upfront costs, but I recovered when I sold the condo, I recovered those costs and made a handsome profit that I would not have had I not made those changes. So it really dramatically enhanced the value of the property. Helen has a question.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could comment about furniture choices as well that are smart, that are good looking and practical and helpful for us. I asked you a question just the other day about those swivel chairs, and this morning we actually went to a furniture store and because we're sort of looking to replace our dining room set. And it was really interesting because the fellow showed us this one table. It was just size-wise. I said, well, what's the size? And he measured it and told me, and then he showed us how it opened up, and it was remarkable. I hadn't seen a table that did it so easily, and it was probably the only table in the store, but it barely we could with one hand just sort of pull a little bit,
Yep.
and then the leaf folded up. It was on some sort of runner system.
You
So
know,
we are
yeah,
very tempted by it. But anyhow, yeah,
yes.
what sort of things to look for when I know this isn't fully universal design, but it does in terms of how do you, what sort of things should we be looking for when
Y-
we're
Yeah.
looking for furniture?
Maximum flexibility, I think. And you know what? There's a website I would suggest people take a look at, because if for nothing else, the fun of it is just amazing. And it's called Furniflex. I mentioned it earlier because that was the company that did that collapsible staircase that turned into a lift. They
Mm-hmm.
have literally hundreds of different furniture ideas where the furniture turns into something else, or it just maximizes the use of space. Or, I mean, there are so many incredibly clever uses, especially if you consider downsizing to a tiny house kind of a space. And again, it's called Furniflex, Furniflex, furniflex.net, or you probably could find it on Facebook. But um, uh, and to your point, Helen, there are some really interesting and amazing designs out there. I just saw one not too long ago where there were bench seats, which would not work for me, but there were seats and a table to eat at, and then you flipped it around, and the bench seats became like a sofa, and the table dropped down and became a coffee table. And so the whole dining area became a seating area by just very simple flipping of some switches. So thank you for asking the question. Good question. Rob, you had a question.
Yes, Jane, would you mind saying a little bit about stair lifts versus elevators? I've currently in a split entry home, get up and down with actually two stair lifts, one to get down to the front door, one to get down to the lower level to get out to the garage. But my understanding is that actually takes away value from the house, whereas an elevator may add value. Is that correct?
Well, the examples that I gave at the very beginning were homes that had a gradual ramping of the sidewalk to the house that eliminated the need to use the stairs. You could keep the stairs, but if the elevation is such that a gradual sidewalk and um, landscaping can be done such that you can then have multiple ways to get into the house. Are you talking about a single family home, Rob?
Yeah, we're a single family home and we're talking inside the house.
Oh, inside the
So
house.
it's a split
Well,
entry. Yes. So you come in the front door, you're looking at 6 steps up or 6 steps down to the lower level of the house. So
yeah. Here again, that might be a situation where, again, I might call in somebody who is more expert than I am to look at your specific home and give you some advice on that. At the very beginning of the slides, I had that one automated set of stairs that collapsed into a lift. That might be the kind of system you want if you want the look of a standard home, but you also want to be able to access it from a wheelchair. That is one solution. And here again, I'd recommend going to the Furniflex website and having your household walk through it, look at it, evaluate it, and then have somebody come over to your place and see, is this practical and workable for your situation? if you don't want to do inside the house, there really isn't room to be ramping. That's not a solution. So there ends up having to be some type of a automated lift system or elevator
Right, yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Stairworks, like everybody else, stairlifts is working for the moment, but it's getting harder and harder to get up from
Right.
the stairlift transfer to a
Yep.
wheelchair. So
Yep.
I
Yeah.
wanted to point out that Rick has in here that you can sell back the stair chair to the same company, and my folks did purchase a used stair runner, so it's not
Mhm.
that hard to do.
I also had a friend who actually installed an elevator in their home. So again, I wouldn't dismiss that idea either. That is also a possibility. Okay, we've got more questions. Robin?
Going to say that we did buy a used stair lift and it has worked beautifully for about 10 years. We had to buy a new battery for it somewhere along the way, but it has just been a life-changing experience for us.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. And Kathy?
Oh, thanks so much, Jane, for doing this. It's absolutely fabulous. Thank you. I just wanted to comment about the chairlift, the stair lift, and the elevator, Rob, because we have done both. In the beginning, we had used stair chairs put in because we have a landing in our stairs halfway up, and then transferring just became just too difficult. So we made the decision to stay in the family two-story house and installed an indoor, they're called home lifts, an elevator. And the company worked with us and they were just wonderful. They're called Stilts, Stiltz, I think. And they're clear. So you feel like you're in a spaceship and they're lit. And they made it put bars where I needed them. They made it handicap wheelchair accessible. They come in three sizes and they could do three floors. So if you feel like going down the basement, you can install it there. And the motor is on top of these elevators, so you don't have to do a lot of underground construction to support the weight. I think they take up to 500 pounds. So a lot would depend on how heavy the wheelchair would be. So the motor's on top, so there's very little damage, quote unquote, done to the house. We also kept the chair lifts because the if the power goes out, you can only go down in the elevator, and the chair lifts are battery operated, and they'll go on a battery for about a week. So we kept that as an extra safety device. But it's really working very well. They kept assuring us it would increase the value of our house and so on and so forth. You, again, they accommodated the inside of the elevator for my needs right now. The only thing about it is it's not an elevator because you don't push a button. You have to hold the button. And I think as hands might become more compromised, that you might need to work out a system for being able to push the button till you get to the floor that you need. But anyhow, so far so good.
Great idea. Thank you, Kathy. And Renee, I want to ask you, I want to get rid of my slides now and go to gallery. How do I do that?
Okay, so you can stop sharing.
Stop sharing?
Yep,
Okay, let me do
should be at the
that.
top, or mine's at the top.
Yeah,
Maybe at the bottom where it says share, that click on
oh,
that little arrow.
you know what? Oops. I know what I need to do. I need to end the slideshow.
End show. There you go.
And there we go. And
And then
now,
the X at the very top. Yep.
up,
Tell
up,
me.
there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Yay. Thank you. Okay. There we go. Thank you. So here we go. Who hasn't talked yet?
Helen's had
Jenny.
her hand up for a while.
Who has?
Helen.
Okay, Helen, yes.
Okay, I have mentioned this at a meeting, at more than one meeting, I think, before. We used to live in a townhouse. It was 3 levels. And when we applied to go in it, they were still building. And we were asking if there was a design that had a bedroom on the main floor, anticipating that stairs could become a problem for me.
Mhm.
And they said, oh, yes, we could make one. Uh, we won't, that's right. They went to the architect and they asked him to, and he said, no, let's put it in an elevator. This was years ago. So they weren't quite as um, conscious, shall I say, of space and everything. And so that is one thing to, definitely call in somebody professional that knows what they're doing, that's done it, but be very aware of maneuverability and space because they were going to put it from the main floor down to downstairs. No, they were going to put it from the main floor to the upstairs. And we said, no, because the laundry room was downstairs, the storage room was downstairs, and there was 2 bedrooms downstairs. So they did that. When we moved in, we realized that if they had done it to upstairs, there was no room for hardly the door to even open. And certainly you couldn't have but even on the going downstairs, the door could open quite wide downstairs, but not on the main floor. It only opened about 75% of the way because of the kitchen wall, and it was a weight-bearing wall. So we couldn't have had that. So it's fortunate that I used it because it reduced my need to go up and down the stairs, especially with laundry and pantry stuff, but definitely would not have been suitable for a wheelchair user.
I think I go back to it really is worth doing a lot, taking the time to research people that have universal design expertise. I mean, remodelers, NARI actually certifies people as universal design experts, and it's worth it to take the time to find the people who really understand it because you're right, Helen. You were able to make it work, but if you're dealing with people who don't get it, so
Mhm.
many little details can get missed, those that are critical to the functioning. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah.
Okay, Ginny, you've had your hand up.
A quick comment, I'm changing the subject a little, about doors underneath a sink. Because when we redid our kitchen, what we did is we basically took the shelf that's inside the cabinet out, but we left the doors and there's no kick plate. So when you open the doors, essentially you have an empty space.
Mm.
So you'd have to open the doors though. You wouldn't be able to just pull right in. So we have a really small kitchen. So that's what we did. Also, we put in a ramp because we live in a house that had steps, and it's a ranch house, but we made the ramp is out of stone. So it's nice to look at. It's not,
Yeah,
it,
right.
and our friends actually did the same thing into their house. They had a person make a nice stone ramp. So that's a way of making it look a little more pleasing.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Renee, did you have a question, comment?
Just a little comment. So, I have an affordable lift in my home. It gets me from the garage into my kitchen, and it just goes straight up. So I have also invested in my brother and sister-in-law's newly built house, and we put an affordable lift in there instead of a elevator. It was much less expensive, but I had to keep cautioning them that they needed to make it bigger. They needed to make it bigger. They did not take into consideration. So this is where Nari would come in. They didn't take into consideration that I needed to have enough room to turn my wheelchair from where I was into
Right.
the actual lift. But it works. It works very, very well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And Dan?
Jane, when you were going through the renovation of your condo, did you have to get separate contractors for the bathroom, the kitchen, and the other living spaces where they knew specifically what they were dealing with?
No, I hired I hired a general contractor, and that was the person that was a NARI approved remodeler who had universal design expertise. And he worked with subcontractors who followed his directive and were able to create universal design kitchen and bath. So we had three different subcontractors, but they all worked under his guidance. And so he and I both had strong input to the subcontractors, but he supervised them. And that's what I would recommend. I mean, again, it all costs money. It depends on your budget. But I did not want to act as the general contractor because, again, there's so many little details. And if you're doing a major renovation, to me, it was worth that extra to have his expertise, and it avoided a lot of mistakes. Any other? Hey, if we don't have any more questions, we can get out early. I don't see any other questions or comments. Greg, I see you're here.
No,
I don't know if you have any other.
Ray has
Oh,
one.
oh, Ray has one. Okay. Where's Ray? Oh, Ray. Oh,
Here
there
I
you are.
are.
There you are.
This this has been great, Jane. And I can't believe how aligned we are on our philosophies of design. Although I must admit I'm a bit of a color moron, so I learned quite a bit from that. Um, I don't know whether you can see behind me, but my office is bright yellow. And
Oh, it
actually, I
looks
love it,
lovely.
I love it.
I
especially in the
love
morning
it.
when the sun comes in from
Yes,
the,
yes.
it's beautiful. And I'm not so keen on the purples that Cindy liked, but hey, you know, that was her office and she could do what she wanted. Um, oh, that's right, bathroom. I've got one addition to say, apart from the fact that I also have a very significant dislike of those fixed or flip up shower bench things.
Mhm.
Hotels have those, and they just, when you're reasonably functional,
Yeah,
you can make them work. But as you kind of lose your physical ability, they get more and more difficult. And now I
agreed.
ask in hotels to provide one of those portable shower benches, so I can set
Mhm.
it to the height I want and position it, exactly what I need, where
Yes.
some contractor decided it should. So we learned a lot about what not to do by traveling a lot.
Yes.
Hotel rooms, particularly the bathrooms, are very good instruction for that. And the thing I was going to say to finish off for me is that in the bathroom we added a rainhead shower because I do have difficulty, and so did Cindy, on waving the handheld shower around. So the rainhead shower is magnificent. You've got a diverter tap valve thing at the front there. So you turn the water on and let the water warm up through the handheld, and then switch to the diverter where you only get maybe 5 seconds of cold water, and then it's like, which is a great wake up in the morning, let me tell you. But then you got the nice hot shower. It's just fantastic. It washes you without having to do anything except just sit there.
Uh,
That's it. That's all I
Wonderful.
got.
Thank you, Ray. Wonderful. And yes, that sounds like a fabulous way to shower. Thank you. And I agree with you. Traveling really is an eye opener for what not to do frequently. So you learned a lot, and I agree. Thank you so much. Um, any
And you said
other?
that's a diverter? A diverter, is that what you called it? Okay.
Oh yes, it's the same sort of thing. If you've got an older house that's got a shower over the bath, it'll have this lever that will switch the water from the shower to the bath tap filler upper. And this exactly the same concept applies with a rainhead shower. So you can use either one or the other.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I
Dan?
have another question.
Oh,
I'm just interested, what have you done? You've moved into independent living place, rented. So what things have you done to adapt the place, or what things did it have that were already helpful?
well, the number one issue is the bathroom. And I was on a waiting list for 9 months to finally find an independent living facility that had an accessible bathroom. So the bathroom has a cutout under the sink. It has enough space that I have my toilet, my lift seat, and my bidet. And you saw that teeny tiny 36 by 36-inch shower, which normally, you cringe, but because of my getting a very small shower chair, I'm able to solve that problem. So I'm functioning, and I don't need the kitchen. In the kitchen, I put in a touch faucet, but it doesn't have a cutout under the sink in the kitchen, oddly enough. But I never use the kitchen because I get 3 meals a day. I have no need to shop for groceries. I have no need to cook. I have no need to clean up. So, that was like one of the major issues for me. I used to love to cook, but it got to the point where lifting the pots and pans and all of that and slicing and dicing, I mean, it just got to be too hard.
Yeah.
So, that was when I cried uncle. And I am so grateful, so grateful for that. And I miss my condo? Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful place and it served me very well. But now this is serving me well for my current needs. I see Dan has a question.
Yes, I'd like to know, Jane, if you or anybody else on our in our wellness hour has had any experience with using California closets as a provider to help with closet spacing.
Tailored living is a competitor to California closets. So my guess is they might offer similar things. I don't know that for a fact. I do know that when I investigated costs, tailored living was a lot more affordable than California closets. So that's my only experience with it. Anyone else? Well,
This
Thank you,
was
Jane.
absolutely wonderful. It was just
Mhm.
stellar. The information is so applicable and usable. You are appreciated, truly.
well, thank you. Thank you for some wonderful comments and for great suggestions and for everybody's polite attentiveness late in the day. So thank you.